the spokespersons. They're not leaders. They're spokespersons. They can ask, and then they can beg. They can go to the second thing. You can make a request, and when you ask twice, now you're begging. But we're all in position of being beggars because the world is a prison. And when you're a prisoner of war, you are a beggar if you're talking to the prison master. You're begging. You can't go off somewhere and say, well, if he doesn't want to do what I want done, I can do this. I can go back to my cell and I can do this and I can do that. You got to remember, you're in the master of the prison cell. So white supremacists sit back and say, well, hey, what we're doing is working fine because we are not confused. Our job is to dominate non-white people, everybody who's black, brown, red, yellow, beige, purple, orange, gold, whatnot. Everybody who is not white, as a white supremacist, it is my duty to dominate and mistreat them forever. That's the white supremacist agenda. That's what it is. And I am not confused about that, and nobody can confuse me about that. And I am some kind of efficient with it because I have accomplished that. I'm not trying to accomplish that. I have long, my forefathers before me accomplished that. We have this down to a scientific perfection. And we got these people so spaced out, they don't have any idea not only about who they are and what they are here for, they got no idea about nothing that I don't tell them. That's the white supremacist agenda.
Yes.
Because it's an agenda that works. You have to understand that the entire world is dominated by the white supremacists. And if you have color in your skin, you are a person who has been assigned to be mistreated because of your color, because of the way you were born, because of the way that the creator of you, if you are a person of color, a non-white person, the creator put color in your skin. And the white supremacists are saying, well, regardless of who did it, it means you are eligible to be mistreated by me because I'm a white person and you are not white. So I have the power and the authority and the privilege and all of everything that's supposed to be of benefit is supposed to be around me. And you are only supposed to get what I say you can have because you have color in your skin. Now, the non-white people who understand that this is the setup and this is the dominant government of the entire planet, then the white supremacists will understand that you understand this, and if enough people understand it, people can't go. It's something about the mind that says you don't go against something that, you can't ignore something that you understand, particularly when it's working against you. That'll keep bothering you until you'll have a tendency to do something about it. Now, that's what the white supremacists do not want. They do not want black people to be logical. They do not want black people to think about anything except something that's real silly and real stupid. This is why they always glorify stupidity in black people. If a black person has a tendency to show stupidity or silliness, that black person, the white supremacists immediately seize upon them and say, this person doesn't show any signs of being serious about anything. So these are the black people that we want to become more and more prominent. And we will feed into their silliness. Anything stupid that they come up with or we come up with for them, we will glorify it. As long as it's stupid and silly. Anything that's serious and constructive, we don't want them to be logical. We don't want them to tap into that. That's not the way we want any people of color to ever think. We want them to be celebratory people, to people who are jumping up and down and turning flips all day and running around in a circle. And then when they bump into each other, they immediately start fighting each other. That's the way we want to keep them. But if they're sitting down and slowly thinking things through and trying to be problem solvers rather than problem makers, no, we don't want those type of non-white people to get out from under our surveillance. you watch them very closely. It's like that dangerous black person on the plantation who's always going around trying to read something or trying to figure things out, asking questions, trying to figure out how the plantation is run. That is a dangerous Negro on this plantation. Sell him down the river or give him a good whipping and stop him from being curious about serious things. Keep him in the silly mode. That is the category that black people are always supposed to be in, the silly mode, the destructive mode. Don't let them think about anything serious, because then they become a danger. Now, some people have said they've seen some cartoons of my work on the internet that have been presented, and that it pretty well embellishes what I have been trying to say in my textbooks. And to the extent that it does that, well, that has been, from what I understand, some people reported to me, a plus. Because they didn't understand what I had written very well, but when they saw those cartoons that just repeated what I was saying and attaching my name to it, and came right out of the book, the material did, they say that they better understood it. And I can understand that, because people are kind of visual, particularly in the year 2021 now, more visual than ever.
You can't just sell at one place at once anymore. You gotta sell in all places.
Good day and gratitude, family. I had the mute button on. This is Face the Nation with Bolden Unchained, and we are back again with the last chapter in our reading of Racial Violence in Kentucky, 1865 to 1940. We are in the last chapter, and I did mark where we were. So we will be finishing this chapter tonight. And I'm not sure if we will begin our next reading. I'm not even sure if this is going to be our next reading. So we'll just play it by ear. First, I would like to get my introductions out the way. Welcome to Bolden Unchained. Bolden Unchained, we are here to assist Black America and Black media in the uncovering and the facing of the many agendas, events, projects, operations. Yeah, let me just revert back to my letter here, my little hint here. Welcome to Bolden Unchained. We are here to assist Black America and Black media in uncovering and facing, also confronting, because we're not just going to learn these things and go on. We need to find solutions and resolutions to the many agendas, projects, operations, laws, bills, acts, codes, compromises, studies, all the sabotages that they have erected and utilized against Black people to keep us in oppression, in this oppression that we've been in. And we're going into a new awakening with this new world order. And Bolden Unchained is here to assist Black America. Our first and final concern is Black America, the welfare of Black America, and the sanity of Black America. These are strictly my opinions on Bolden Unchained and wherever else I am that I choose to be. These are my opinions, no one else's. And I feel like we at Bolden Unchained feel like the sanity of Black America, the well-being of Black America is our only focus to be maintained and committed to. We're not harming or hurting anyone caught in the middle or that chooses to be with us, that find themselves with us, because we're not a harmful people. However, don't get it twisted. My first concern is Black America and our welfare and our sanity of Black America. Let's get this copyright disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for the purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. The fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. And we are using this as critiquing, commenting, research, educational. Oh, and I must say about the fog the other day, the fog that was in Minnesota. I watched some videos earlier. That fog was in several states and many people have been affected by that fog. I'm still experiencing my scratchy throat. But I know a lot of people are experiencing trouble breathing, sinus irritations and stuff. Move, go to bed. So, Black America, we are the target. We are the target, Black America. We must wake up. You know, anyone that listens to this video, anyone that hears my voice, know that you are being used. You have been used to further along the agendas against Black America. Whether you knew it or not, you've been a pawn. Everyone has been a pawn to hold Black America down, to suppress Black America from any achievements, unless it's the achievements that you readily allow, you willingly allow. Rapping, football star, basketball star. But I want everyone to know that Martin Luther King said, injustice against one is injustice against all. He wasn't talking to us. He was talking to y'all motherfucking ass. He was talking to everybody else that sat by, didn't do anything. Your grandparents and your great-grandparents and your great-great aunties and uncles and stuff ran out there to witness, to help, to assist in the lynchings of Black bodies. And America, now is your time. If white America, now is your time. if you ever had any little small glimpse, any little small seed of John Brown in you, white America, this is who you were supposed to strive and be like. You went with the clan ancestor, not your ancestor. White America, you went with your clan ancestor instead of your ancestors. Now, we don't know. Everybody done inhaled this. Well, a lot of people have. I think it was probably maybe 5 or 6 states that experienced that fog. I was on my way to work, and I went through it. I wasn't sure if I had got off the freeway, because I usually don't even take the freeway and stuff. Occasionally I will. But I was wondering if I had got off the freeway. Was the fog really thick in the little city that I would have went through, the little detour? Because when I missed that exit and I stayed on that freeway, it got so thick. That fog did it. It just literally, I just went into the fog. Everybody did. All the cars that was on the freeway just went into the fog. You know, what the hell were we breathing? What the hell is these folks done put down on us? Because America, in totality, all of y'all other people that's here too, all of y'all assisting in the debasement of Black America. Meanwhile, life itself is being snuffed out. I want to know, do y'all even contemplate what cosmic energy and Mother Gaia is planning to do, what she's doing, what they are putting into effect, what's been happening, the natural disasters, the sinkholes and stuff, huge sinkholes. Can we even imagine? I can, because I'm calling on a spirit come through. It's so diabolical, ain't it? And you still ain't finna get rid of Black folk. You finna get rid of a lot of folks. But you still won't exterminate Black America. Because the cosmos, that wonderful, expansive, ever-growing, ever-evolving cosmos, they don't know. White folks not from there. White folks from us. White folks was grafted or crafted or whatever they were saying in the book. Go read Big Head Scientist, the Big Head Scientist, Yakub. It'll explain all about it and stuff. It'll get your mind to thinking. But cosmic energy manifested the Black woman and the Black man. What y'all think finna happen? Huh? In this realm right here. What y'all think finna happen because of the theft of melanin? All of this violence that's done happened to the manifestation of cosmic energy. How dare you, white people, white America, how dare you think that you could do these things to the chosen people, to the very one that cosmic energy manifested. I know we got many names for the unknown. We call it Yahushua, I think. Yahweh, God, and other people call it other stuff, I'm sure. But I don't put it in no box. I used to refer to it as God too. God in the sky. Yep. But now I don't put it in no box. Yep. I don't put cosmic energy in no box. That's as far as I'll go. Cosmic energy. That's as far as I'll go. And can't nobody, man, woman, child, white, black, nobody tell me that I need to put cosmic energy in a box and call it Yahushua. Because I don't. I know a lot of us thinking we're in the last days, Black America, but we're not in the last days. We're in the end of the age. This age is ending. All the destruction that we're seeing, the destruction that we are seeing, is because it's been so much destruction. And Mother Gaia and cosmic energy doing their own purging. They're doing their own purge. Because some people, they don't want them here no more. When all of this is over, and Black America has awakened and are standing, then we'll see. That's when we'll see. Because right now, we ain't seeing a damn thing. Right now, we can't even comprehend what's going on with us. We can't even acknowledge that we've forgotten. We can't even acknowledge that we're fearful, we're afraid. We're looking for, someone to hate, someone to be mad at, someone to point the finger at for all of this bullshit that's done happened. That we going through right here, right now. And we pointed at each other. It's our fault. It's our fault. And we do take some blame. We do take some blame for every decision, every mistake, every bad, every left and wrong turn we done took in life. Black America, we do hold ourselves accountable. Ain't none of us perfect. But see, the realization, the thing about it, is see the acknowledgement and the acceptance that it was all by design. See, that's when we can begin to forgive ourselves. Because I'm not mad at you, Black America. I'm not mad at you no more. And don't be mad at me no more. I know, hell, I was a hell raiser. A lot of us was hell raisers. But it was all by design. It was always by design. It still is by design. But we got to be the ones to design our own liberation, our own future, our own freedom. We designed it before. Look at how marvelous Black Wall Street was. Where's our book set with our heroes in it? Look at all the power, the finesse, the cosmic gifts and talents, the sovereignty. Some people on the planet, white America, wish they could have just a little bit of what Black America got. But they can't have it because it wasn't given to them. It wasn't divined to them. See, this was divined to Black Americans, to Black people, the melanated people. All over this planet, wherever you look in any country in Africa, look in any state in America, look at the Black people. What do you see? When you look at Black people, what do y'all see? When I look at a Black woman, when I truly look at a Black woman, my sister, and she ain't the weakling. Now, when I see a weakling, I know. It's still my sister, though. But I know that she a weakling. I know that he a weakling. But they still my people. And I love them. And I wish they know about the greatness. Not America greatness. But when I look at my sisters, I see goddesses. I know we say queen and king. You know, we have our embellishments that we like, our adornments that we like to put on each other and stuff, you know. Nicknames, aliases, what have you. But when I see Black women, I see goddesses. When I see Black men, I see gods now. I don't see a Black man. I see them who they are meant to be. And that's how I try to treat us. Because I wasn't always like this. And I didn't always see us in this greatness. Because I didn't know. But now I know. Each one of us got them in us. Sure do, baby. We got them in us. I can't tell you how many ancestors I got in me. I wish I could. I wish I could tell you, but I can't. Because it ain't the same that you got in you. So, yeah, when I look at us, oh, yeah, I can see the potential. Yes, honey. I can see the power. And I don't mean the potential to, be a number one rapper. The potential to go far, be a basketball star, a football star. I mean, I see a God and a goddess that can change the whole world for their people if they open their mind up, if we learn how to hone in on what's rightfully ours. Them. They've left it to us. Even though we don't have the love letters, the documents, the blueprints, the models that our ancestors left us, we have them in us. And see, can't nobody take that away. I've been calling on the ancestors before I even knew. Before I even knew about them like this. Before I even knew about this. I didn't know who I was calling on. But I've been calling on for a long time. Probably since I was a little girl. And that's what we got to do to break this mindset. We got to break this mindset. We can't stay in it. You can't stay in this mindset. I know. It's easy to stay in it. But that's not what you're supposed to do, Black America. It's time for Black America to wake up. Wake up and get up. And it's going to be all right. We going to be all right. Don't be scared. Don't be afraid of nothing. Our ancestors got us. Yeah, we just got to know who we loyal to. Who are you loyal to? That's all. We just got to know who we loyal to. You know, because it's a different story. It's a whole ball game. See, we brave. Yeah, we real brave in most things. But when it come to white folks, we ain't got no bravery when it come to white folks. They go out the window. Even Jesus Christ, God, ain't even giving y'all the confidence to speak out to white folks about what they did. Now your Bible is making you feel like, oh, forgive and forget. Forgive and forget. Forgive and forget. Don't say nothing. Face. Oh, come over here with that. And I ain't mad at you. Not no more. I'm not mad at Black America anymore. I know what's happened. White folks know what's happened. Everybody know what's happened. We at the end now, Black America. It's time to wake up and look around. Because I tell you one thing, we sure don't want to wake up and see the robots actually doing their thing. At least wake up here so we can know they coming. You know. Again, we on social media anyway. Go to your YouTube and put in Black Medias. Black Media. When you find one Black Media, you go through the suggestions and you look at the rest of them. And you go ahead and you get started with Black Media, Black America. So we can get the hell up out of here. You heard what Pap said at our earlier noontime when we were reading about Pap and the great exodus when all the Black people down south went west. I only knew that Black people went north, but see, my throat real scratchy since all that fog and stuff. It's really scratchy. I'm just drinking a whole lot of tea. I'm gonna call one of our healers and get me some different type of herbs and stuff, because ain't no telling what that fucking fog was. The motherfucker sitting up here putting together all these goddamn man-made cocktails and shit. We're already inhaling radiation. And you know what I think about that. Hold on. Hold your ass. Right there. Word. Oh, don't tell me I moved it. Yep, it looked like I did too. I'll find it. Because I want y'all to see if we're going to read that too. I'm going to get permission first. You know I'm going to get permission first. But we're going to read that too. Because radiation poisoning. Oh yeah, it's out there, radiation poisoning. We don't know it, but it is. White media ain't told y'all nothing. White media ain't told us nothing. I don't know how many people I told today. You know today ain't New Year's. Oh, I can't even tell you how many people I've made that that statement too. You know, today ain't New Year's in the dead of winter. Because, hey, I didn't know either. I didn't think about it. I didn't put two and two together. Damn, it can't be New Year's in the dead of winter. I mean, even when I lived down south, which is where I'm from, I never put two and two together that New Year's Day is in the middle of winter, because we don't think we that thinking that mechanism is shortened. It's got a shortage in it. See, the indoctrination that we have been programmed with, it's like a shortage in our brain. You know how your light switch might have a shortage in it, and if it touch or something, it'll go off, but then it'll come on and go off and come on. Well, the indoctrination is kind of like that, because we can think and comprehend certain things with a level of comfort and confidence. But see, this right here, and white people, we can't do that. That's where we shortage out. That's where we shortage out. And we can't be shortaging out no more. We're going to have to, find our strength. Find your courage, your bravery. And I'm telling you where it's at. Here it is right here. All you got to do is call on your ancestors. Learn about your ancestors. That's all Black America got to do, is call on our. Don't you know these people saved us? Do you know that these people saved us from this? Put your religious mind to the side. Put all the religiousness to the side. Okay? Leave it right there. I ain't say put it down. I just said leave it right there. Set it on your lap. But just if you got it in your hand, hold it over there. This right here. Racial violence. Can you see that? In the United States. Look at how thick this damn book is. Oh, and it's damned. The things inside of this book. The things inside of this book. In this book. Where's the other book? Lynchings in Duluth. 100 Years of Lynching. You can't even check that book out. Hell, we might print it off, because you can't print the pages off now. But all of this right here, Black America. The time is now. You need your courage. You need some hope. I know Black America still need hope. We still need hope. Well, Jesus right there. The religion right there. This is Black America's hope. This is Black America's strength. They are our hope and our strength. They are our courage. Our ancestors, baby. See, white media and them, your white friends, your brethren, they ain't going to tell y'all ass that. They ain't going to tell us this. They is not going to tell us that everything we need, everything we want and desire, they ass ain't got it. They put out that whole video, that whole study, how to market to a Negro, so they can get us addicted to what they want us to be addicted to. So while we walking around just damn near billboards, you see, then they able to subtly steal, take, borrow, use, emulate who we are. Not to mention, hell, they done infiltrated so deeply, white America has, into Black America. We ain't never had a time without white America up our ass, except for Black Wall Street. Because we got away from y'all motherfucking ass. We got the fuck away from white America when we built up our Black Wall Streets. And what happened? What happened? That heifer said Dick Rowland assaulted her. Somebody said Dick Rowland assaulted some white woman in the elevator. And that was all it took. Yeah, that was all it took. Man, don't be afraid. Don't you be afraid. What is Black America gonna be afraid for? Do we know what our ancestors went through? Do we even care what our ancestors went through? But to keep the peace, to be included in the illusion, how dare we ignore our very own? As if it was just a story to tell. As if it's okay to ignore and just forget about everybody. Do y'all even talk to y'all white spouses and stuff? I mean, I ain't never, I'm just asking. Do they tell y'all to shut the fuck up? We don't want to talk about that bullshit or what? How do it happen? How? You just agree to we don't talk about that? It's water under the bridge. And who said that? Them or you? The white person or the black person in the interracial relationship? I just want to know. Because for all the mingling and marrying, it ain't did Black America not a bit of good to procreate with these descendants of these people. It ain't done Black America damn good to procreate with our open enemies, daughters, sons. And I'm going to tell you why. It would have been some good if white America was sincere. But white America ain't never been sincere. Even that, the mingling and the marrying, that was to weaken, to lessen the Black numbers. It's always about the Black numbers. There's too many of us. Depopulation is about Black America, Black people, the world over. All the agendas, the food, the medicine, the music, everything, the law, education, all of it is, y'all know what it is. Everybody know what it is. All y'all other peoples, you mean to tell me y'all gonna go into this new world order too? Oh, I don't give a damn about black folks shit. They ain't us. They ain't never helped us. They the ones that allowed themselves to get that bad off. They the one that let that happen. When y'all know damn well Black America, white America, been riding Black America for centuries. Y'all know damn well Black America traumatized. Everybody know. Everybody knows. And anybody that say they don't know, you a motherfucking lie. You is a motherfucking lie. And you, who was that? I just heard Willie D say it the other day. I forgot who said it. But he said that you can lie to some of the people all the time. You can even lie to all of the people some of the time. But you can't lie to everybody all the time and think that everybody believe in all the lies. It's on you, white America. This on you. What is you gonna do? And the other societies, y'all here too. You done brought your ass over here. Everybody else, you done brought your ass over here too. And so far, you've treated Black America just like white America. But before we go any further, before we step into this new world order, before we step that second foot in the new world order, everybody needs to decide. Are we going to help Black people get what they need so they can heal? So they can be ready too? Because you know you can do it. Black people done helped y'all motherfucking ass every step of the way. Before Black people, before Black America was really solidified in our comfort, we were talking about for all. For all. And that was for everybody. Yeah, that was for everybody. Give me some props. But what do everybody do? Withhold everything from Black America. Oh, we'll give Black America a little pinch of comfort, but we won't give Black America a lap of luxury. We'll give them a little comfort. Let them relax themselves just a little bit. But as soon as they start to leveling up, you got to pull back all the brakes. Yeah, but I can't tell you how many people today or yesterday I had to tell you know it ain't New Year's Day. And we just laugh. Yeah. Yeah, you right, sis. It ain't New Year's Day. Well, we got to quit saying this shit. We got to stop saying it. Ain't a damn thing been birthed from Mother Gaia in the middle of winter. We don't see no flowers on the trees blooming. Ain't nobody going out in their garden and seeing no tomatoes growing and watermelon and peas and carrots and okra. It's the middle of winter. Birds is not having babies in the middle of winter out there. We are not finna look outside and see the birds having babies. It's the middle of winter. These people done lied to us about so much. I even took some notes on that. Where that paper that I had? I wrote them notes on and stuff. Honey, January is for Janus. Oh yeah, I was like, "Ooh, what is this?" And you know me, I wrote it down. I forgot where I put it at, but it was only 10 months in the year, cause Julius Caesar motherfucking ass did it. Julius Caesar changed the calendar from 10 months to 12 months. So we really don't know what damn year it is, do we? We really don't know what. And when I say damn, I'm saying DAM, like a blockage. Like a blockage, a dam. I'm not saying damned, DAMNED. I use that for special occasions. But yeah, we really don't know what year it is. Somebody computed it about 2 years ago, I think. And they came up with like 2014 or something like that at that time. Where is that thing at? I can at least read it off to you of what it said about the time. So, yeah. Maybe I'll have to do it another day when we live. I'll just reference. Hey, remember I was talking about the calendar? And then I can, show you what it was and stuff. But, okay, let me let this window down. Let's see if we have another video to watch right fast, because we could do that.
Here are the top 3 things I wish I knew before starting my own YouTube channel, and I'm going to tell you how Descript can catapult you into making great.
Listen.
Neely Fuller, who wrote the textbook for victims of racism a number of years ago, in the late mid-70s, he used to say, in the system, because he was the first person to talk about racism as a system, and he said that as the system of racism, white supremacy moves on, the system is going to have black men wearing dresses. Now, to hear that in the 70s, people said, oh, this is way out. And here we are. Do you see, there's some black pediatricians who are saying we are developing epidemic levels of the effeminization of young black males. Well, I say the pants sagging down is just a subconscious invitation for homosexuality.
Yeah.
You see, it's revealing.
Don't tell black men that though.
See, so the pants are getting lower and lower and lower. The next step is to step out of the pants altogether. And so you step out of the pants, you're going to put on a dress. The effeminization is an essential ingredient of white genetic survival. And the only thing that can prevent it is black people becoming conscious or becoming determined that this is not going to happen to them, because if the black men are destroyed, then the black people are gone, and we have a state of genocide. In the last 500 years, black people in this area of the world, we can say that there's no such thing as black culture. What there is what the system of racism, white supremacy programs black people to do. You see, in other words, if the system of racism, white supremacy says, you are not going to be scientists, you are not going to be highly functioning doctors and lawyers and teachers, you are not going to have stable family life, you are not going to respect sex. Now, your role is to entertain me so you can jump up and down and sing, you can dance, and yes, you're good at sports. You can do that in some venues. That's what I'm going to allow you to do. I'm not going to allow you to have stable communities, because if you have a Tulsa, Oklahoma, I'm going to burn that down. If you think you're going to stabilize a so-called middle-class community and you're going to have a home that's mortgaged, I'm going to see that those mortgages are foreclosed so that you can be into family dissolution, place of living dissolved, So what we can say is that we have an imposed culture under the power dynamics of racism, white supremacy. See, I can see right now in my mind the picture of Beyonce with her legs wide open at the Super Bowl for last year. It was so appalling to me, I can't get it out of my mind in terms of what has been done to us. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we would be wiser. No, we are trying to get ourselves to the point where we can establish what we would then call black culture, where we will no longer be victims of a system of racism, white supremacy. So once the system of racism, white supremacy has been replaced with a system of justice, that's when we will start talking about our culture. That's when we will begin talking about who we really are as black people.
Just more of the same of what you're looking at now, and becoming more and more sophisticated, more backstabbing, more black people walking around like zombies, not knowing what to do, not knowing what to value, not knowing what's important, not knowing the difference between a male and a female. Just stone, obliteration of the mind. Complete. No value system of any kind. Just going around doing things like robots, like Frankensteins. On the course that we're on now, because of we don't have a vision, and people who don't have a vision, I'm saying, like I said in my book, because people have asked me this down through the years, what is it that we should want, Mr. Fuller? And I said, well, we should want to be what people ought to be, if we can ever find out what that is. And so that's an evolving process. So we'll put a label on it, said we should be evolving toward universal man and universal woman. Now, what would that look like? We really don't know, but it would be the very best that there is in a most constructive manner. And the only way you know the difference between something constructive and something non-constructive is by trial and error. So you always try to do the constructive thing in every area of activity. In economics, what's the most constructive way to use your time and energy? Because that's the compensatory definition for economics, the use of time and energy. So what's the most constructive thing to do each and every minute of each and every day in the use of your time and energy? And then in the field of education, what's the most constructive way to educate people? Now, some people have said they've seen some cartoons of my work on the internet that have been presented, and that it pretty well embellishes what I have been trying to say in my textbooks. And to the extent that it does that, well, that has been, from what I understand, some people reported to me, a plus. Because they didn't understand what I had written very well, but when they saw those cartoons that just repeated what I was saying and attaching my name to it, and came right out of the book, the material did, they say that they better understood it. And I can understand that, because people are kind of visual, particularly in the year 2021 now, more visual than ever.
Here's why you should definitely publish your book. I believe this quote by Toni Morrison sums it up best. If there is a book you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. Well, the first reason is to tell your
Let's see here. I do have something else that I think I want to share it tonight. Maybe I probably could do it tomorrow also. I think it would go pretty good with this. Yeah, that one right there is like 52 minutes long. So we're not going to do that. We're going to look at this one here, though.
Week, and it's a TikTok of a white guy by the name of Danny Collins, and he was breaking. So I saw this video trending last week, and it's a TikTok of a white guy by the name of Danny Collins, and he was breaking down systemic and institutional racism that still exists in 2023. Watch this.
A lot of people ask me, what was my aha moment? What made me change my perspective? And it's when I saw this. So a black person in the United States during the Jim Crow era faced second-class citizenship, disenfranchisement, barriers to voting, barriers to education, barriers to employment, and barriers to housing. Then we had the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which stated we could no longer do any of this. We could no longer discriminate based on race. So in 2023, what is the only group of people that we can legally discriminate against? We can legally relegate to second-class citizenship, create barriers to voting, barriers to education, barriers to employment, barriers to housing. If you answer convicted felon, you are absolutely correct. In 2023, a convicted felon is the only group of people that we can legally do all this to. Now, do you believe it's a coincidence that 1 in 3 black males carry this label as convicted felon as opposed to 1 in 17 white males? If you answered yes to that question, let's take a look at what's happened since the dismantling of the Jim Crow laws. We've had a 700% increase in our prison population. We've gone from 300,000 inmates to as high as 2.3 million. Now, I do believe we're back down to about 1.8 million today. We had the law and order agenda, which was an increase in police spending and a decrease in school funding, which created the school to prison pipeline. We also had the war on drugs, which we now know was a war on people. We had the 1986 Anti-Drug Abuse Act, and we had the 1994 Crime Bill. Now, the 86 Anti-Drug Abuse Act differentiated between rock cocaine and powder cocaine, which we know predominantly impacted the black community. And the 94 Crime Bill created harsher sentences, lengthier sentences, and minimum mandatories. We also know that black people make up 53% of all exonerations, 69% of exonerations for drug crimes, and they're 7 times more likely to be wrongly convicted. So when I seen all of this, I realized that racism in this country never ended. We have a systemic issue.
So as you saw and heard him say, you know, that was my aha moment. That's when I realized that I had to change my position and, you know, concede that, yeah, racism is still alive even to this day. Now, the conversation I saw regarding this was, oh, you know, there's black people there, you know, getting excited because it's a white man saying this and we've been saying this and blah, 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 blah. Let me tell y'all something, okay? Sometimes we get caught up on the ridiculous, the silliness of it all. There are some black people who, yeah, they're like, oh my God, they're excited that somebody white is acknowledging that. And then there's some black people like, well, yeah, we already knew that, but yeah, it's still pretty cool. Now, if you're like me, I'm like, yeah, we knew that, but we know that black people are not the ones to stop racism. Like we can't. It's for white people. So if that white man from TikTok, Danny Collins, wants to get on his whiteboard and outline all of the things that affect black people even to this day, then let him do that because he needs to educate his people on what is really going on. Because believe it or not, we're going to need some white people, and a lot of them, in fact, to get on board so that we can get what's due us, and that's reparations. But I sometimes just shake my head like we fight over every doggone thing. Now y'all mad because black people are excited that a white man is breaking it down, and if you ask me, he did a pretty good job because there's a lot of black people that cannot break it down like that and do not know all there is to know in regards to what he said. So I don't have a problem with that. And I don't think anybody should have a problem with it. I mean, was he lying? Because it'd be different if he was lying, right? If he was lying, then all right, we're going to have an issue with it. Like, why are y'all, big up in this white man and he lying? But he wasn't lying. Y'all point out something that he lied about. So we as Black people, we need to get out of the silliness and we need to get aligned with the truth. If what that man was saying is true, who cares if he was white? You know what I'm saying? Let's get this truth. Let's do something about it. And let's say, hey, you know what? Good. Thank you, Danny. Thank you for putting that out there. Keep up the good work, because the more of your people that you reach with the truth, then that's better off for us. So y'all tell me what you think of that. And for more insightful commentary, please subscribe to this channel and my channel, The Demetra K Show, here on YouTube. Peace.
Instead of having your business run your life, drowning in work like I did when I first started my business, I want to tell you about a better way. I'm Lori, a marketing consultant.
Well, and his name was Danny Collins. I thought the video was a little longer. It may have been that long video that I was talking about, because it had a little bit more, shall we say, meat to the video. But as far as the video goes, I agree with Sister, because we can't stop racism. That's for white folks to do. Now, it was creative how he broke it down and stuff, and it does have its worthy cause, because it is a lot of white America, that a lot of Sabrinas that haven't been told about all of the greatness America claimed they had. Now the Karens know, because Karens is the ones that they would take to these. But yeah, don't be mad at white people when they want to talk to their people about what happened. Yeah, let them do it. They need to know. They gonna listen to it from him before they listen to it from us. We need to be talking to us, because even when he do reach his people and they decide that we don't want to hear that, we already know what we did after we couldn't hang the ornaments no more. We know what laws we put in place against Black America. So we need to keep our focus on us. That's what Black America needs to do. Let him do what the hell he needs to do for his people, because we need to do what we need to do for our people. And what Sister said, we do need some white people. We may need some white people, and that's neither here nor there with me, because it wasn't now white person that helped build Black Wall Street. If it was a John Brown amongst them, he got away. So, but white people, white America can get into the spaces, the places that Black America can't get in. But my whole thing is, I don't think there's no trust with white America no more. But that's just me. That's just how I feel. But we are on chapter 8 in our racial violence in Kentucky, 1865 to 1940. We are on chapter 8, and it's the last chapter in the book. And I did mark the page, so we're going to start there. We've read a lot about the state of Kentucky. And if you want to, peruse some of the videos, go back and watch some of the videos, and Here's some of the stories, some of the experiences, and although a final ruling, okay, wait a minute. A challenge to the continued exclusion of blacks from juries was made in a case in Paducah. And when it was rejected by the Kentucky Court of Appeals, it was carried to the United States Supreme Court. This is another case. We're talking about the cases where when they had told white people, look, y'all got to stop publicly, savagely ravaging, lynching, burning, dragging, and hanging black bodies in public and stuff. And you know, white people didn't want to do that. But they did decide, that the state of Kentucky got to clear up its name. We can't be, because, white folks was coming out in 20,000 to one lynching, 50,000, 100,000. They were coming from all over by plane, train, boat, feet, carpooling. Some of them probably even walked to the lynchings and stuff. So white people know very well what they've done, But when the state of Kentucky decided that, we got to stop all of this right here and we got to clear up the name of Kentucky because we want people to see us as a welcoming, safe state. And white America had a motherfucking breakdown. You mean to tell us we can't lynch black people no more? We can't drag black people in the streets no more. We can't show up. We can't come out deep no more to get one black man. We can't hunt them no more. But that was the law. They couldn't do that no more. So white folks decided that, okay, we'll do it. We'll stop. But you, the system, you got to promise us that any black that break the law, you got to convict them and you got to hang them. You got to lynch them. And they went along with it. Kentucky went along with it. But then Kentucky said, oh, we can't do it publicly no more. Because then white people were showing up, thousands and thousands. White people were showing up to the lynchings and stuff. So they made the lynchings private. But they sold tickets to get in to see the lynchings. White people started making fraudulent tickets. So they kind of like weaned. They kind of had to wean white America from this savageness that they have to them. About us. Now, white folks racist to everybody that ain't white. But it's black people that really brings out that savageness that's in white America. And I'm not lying. That's just what I see from the readings. I don't know how you see. Maybe you see them as like they can change and we still need to give them a chance. But no, we can't. Black America can't take the chance no more. White America is gonna have to. White America is the one that's gonna have to make this change. We can't do it. We can't change nothing. White folks the one that's got to change it and stuff. And even if white folks do decide that they're going to do away with the grudge, because they know in their heart that they bullshitted us around. And they know in their heart we gave our all. We gave our all to integrate with them, to procreate with them. Man, we don't know what year it is. But for the sake of 2025, it's a new awakening. Black America, we're in a new awakening. We are in a new awakening, baby. Get your ass up. So anyway, so this part right here, what it was talking about and stuff was white folks coming with that condition. Okay, we'll stop the public lynching and the public burning and setting them on fire and stuff. But you got to convict them and you got to give them the death penalty. We got to at least see them being lynched. So the state of Kentucky did that and stuff. But it was some cases that came through that did not get the death penalty. They still were convicted and maybe got like life in prison. But some cases didn't get the death penalty. And white folks was pissed. Because white folks told the authorities, look here. If you can convict them but not lynch them, if you having a hard time with that, let us know because we can do it. That's what white America said. It's in the book. And that's what they meant. If y'all can't convict and give them the death penalty, white America said, let us know because we can come and do it. We can. And I don't know if it was at this point or before then, when the overall infiltration of the justice system took place, because they started out, the racists started out with that first police department. I think it was in Boston. Sister V had told me about it and stuff in a video or something she had shared. I seen it. She didn't tell me, I seen it. And I think it was in Boston, the first police department. But they weren't none but racist men, racist white men. So to say that they possibly infiltrated it then in Kentucky, they had already been in it. Even the jailers. Remember in the other books, this book and the other book also, the jailers that were handing the accused over to the mob, they were racist too. They were just willing to do their job until the mob showed up. Then they were like, shit here. Some of them gave them the key. Yep, some of them gave them the key. Some of them took the accused and took them right on outside to him. Well, here you go. Because they said, you ain't got to burn down nothing. We finna give you all of the niggers in here. The one you want and the other two. And that was your Jesus. Because they had that cross. And they put it on his back. And they made him walk with it. But the cross fell. It was in that story in one of them books. I think it was in Red Summer. I eventually read these books myself again because they mine. But we're going to read them again too. And we might make some passages. Well, this one ain't mine, but Red Summer is mine. But we forget about them. We forget about all of those Jesuses. Our brothers, all those Jesuses that was executed. Women too. Oh yeah, I got my own notes that I had wrote of some women that were lynched. Black women that were lynched. Like Mary Turner. Mary Turner. Her husband, what was his name? Was it Hal? I want to say Hal Turner. I forgot his name. But her name was Mary Turner. She was 8 months pregnant. Her husband had, I think he killed a white man. They was arguing and had a disagreement and stuff. And he killed the white man. Something happened. And so white people killed him. White people killed him. I don't know if that's what happened, so don't quote me on it. What happened to her was she was very upset about what happened to her husband. She was 8 months pregnant finna have their baby. And she was in the town square, and she was going off about who murdered her husband. It was self-defense that he was doing to protect himself. You know, and he shot the man and killed him, I think. And white people came and killed him. And so she was in the town square talking about, you know, that she wanted to get those responsible and she wants them brought to justice. Well, white people got mad at this 8 month pregnant woman because she was a black woman and she was out there talking about white men murdering her husband and she wanted justice for her husband. Don't you know them white men chased that black woman, that black pregnant woman? They chased that black woman for days. Mary Turner. They called her. I think it was on a Sunday after church when they called her. I might be thinking of another experience, another ancestor. But we're going to go on with the story for the sake of how the mob carried out the torture. So they chased Mary Turner. She was 8 months pregnant. Can you imagine trying to get away from a mob and you 8 months pregnant? And I think she did elude them for like 2 days. Wasn't very long. She was pregnant. But I think it was a Sunday after church when they found her. And they hung her up by her feet. And they whooped her. They whipped her. And she was upside down. She was upside down because they had her hanging by her feet. Because they knew what they were going to do. They had been talking about what they were going to do to her when they got her. That's the only thing I could think of for them to have her in that position, knowing that she's pregnant, and to have her hanging upside down like that. They knew what they was going to do. And they cut her stomach. Her baby fell out. And they stomped on her baby. That's what white America did. So many experiences and tortures. We can't even imagine it. We can't even imagine what our ancestors saved us from. Well, we've denied it for too long. We've ignored it for too long. For them to save us from the evil, for them to save us from this, I'm not going to get mad at Black America. But I want to say to Black America, for our ancestors to save us from this, and white folks, white America still feel like this in some parts of this world. All of y'all ain't changed. Half of y'all ain't changed if you still alive. Those of you that's been raised with the same mindset that these people right here had, you leave us no choice but to focus and fight for ourselves and our future. Because ain't no safety, ain't no trust with white America. Y'all ain't never made us feel safe. You ain't never made us feel like we could trust y'all. Yeah, you laid down and had babies. So the fuck what? When the shit hit the fan, we better get our babies. Because when y'all revert back to this, it's going to be a wrap. Oh, I got a video showing how I think white America is holding off all that rage and that craving that y'all got. Yeah, you got to come clean with it. White America, y'all got to come clean with us. My ancestors, our ancestors done seen the worst of y'all. And our mindset, our minds can imagine the rest. I can. We can imagine the rest. All right, so some of the blacks did not get the death penalty. They got like life without parole, life in prison without parole. And white people were pissed about that because they needed that satisfying of the blood. They needed it. They needed to be able to at least have that body, at least be able to go get that body, you know. Even though others was going to get it, where it was at in prison anyway, because they all was in the system for that purpose. But a lot of people, a lot of the white folks that was in the lynch mob, they were just regular people. You know, that was in the lynch mob, they were just regular folks. It was the deputies and sheriffs and lawyers, attorneys and stuff like that in the mob too. But the majority of them mobs were just regular white folks. Y'all damn lie. Yes, it was. Okay, a challenge to the continued exclusion of blacks from juries was made in a case in Paducah. Because see, black folks were still saying it's a problem that black people can't sit on the juries, because the juries were still all white. Sometimes the black person, the black man, hadn't even been found guilty. Soon as they got him, they captured him. White folks wanted him convicted with a trial and sentenced to death, hung, lynched. They didn't care if it was a trial or not. They didn't want it to be no trial. They just wanted just satisfy the greed, satisfy the need. So it was another challenge, you know, because black folks was always saying, yeah, you know, that's a problem. So this right here was a challenge to the continued exclusion of blacks from juries. And the case was made in Paducah, Kentucky. And when it was rejected by the Kentucky Court of Appeals, it was carried to the United States Supreme Court. On the night of August 18th, 1935, W.R. Toone, white, was found in the black community slumped over in his car. He had been stabbed 3 times, and he died 2 hours later in the hospital. The police investigation revealed that Toone had been driving through the community, probably trying to pick up black women. They knew damn well he was in the neighborhood to pick up black women. and had twice unsuccessfully approached Eugenia Hale. Several people came forward and mentioned that they had seen Joe Hale, the brother of Eugenia, go near Toon's car. And Eugenia made a damaging statement to the police that tied her brother to the murder. When he returned to the house after talking with Toon, she asked him what had happened, and he said, "That man went on up on Ohio Street and parked in the dark, and I gigged him a time or two and told him to quit stopping these colored girls." She then pointedly asked if he had hurt the white man, and he replied, "No, I just gigged him a little." With the assistance of the NAACP, Hale's attorneys argued for a change of venue and also asked that the indictment be thrown out because blacks had been excluded from both the grand and petit jury pools. In support of their motions, the attorneys submitted materials showing that 8,000 of the county's 48,000 citizens were black, and that at least 700 of these blacks were eligible for jury duty under the laws of Kentucky. Out of 8,000, only 700 were eligible for jury duty? Nevertheless, of almost 600 people selected by the jury commissioners for jury duty, jury service in 1936, almost 600 people, none had been Afro-Americans. To show that the exclusion of blacks in 1936 was a typical practice, an affidavit was submitted showing that blacks had not served on juries in McCracken County since 1906. The attorneys would have argued that the practice had gone on even longer, but they lacked the evidence to document previous years. In short, Hale's lawyers argued that a long, continued, unvarying, and wholesale exclusion of Negroes from jury service in this county on account of their race and color had occurred. Ignoring the well-documented evidence, the judge refused to drop the charges against Hale and denied his request for a change of venue. The all-white jury found Hale guilty of murder and handed down the death sentence. In its June 1937 ruling, the Kentucky Court of Appeals agreed that no blacks had served on juries in McCracken County. Yet it said that Hale's attorneys had presented no evidence that showed a systemic exclusion of blacks because of their race. Relying on legal jargon to dismiss Hale's contention that the discrimination against blacks had taken place over the years in the county, the justices noted, "We therefore have a case where the proof might be regarded as sufficient to sustain the ground upon which the motion was evidently made. But there is wanting in the record a sufficient statement of those grounds to permit the introduction of that proof." Carrying their argument further, the justices concluded, "The failure so pointed out is analogous." The failure so pointed out is analogous, ANALOGOUS, to a case where there is proof without pleading. And the rule is that pleading without proof or proof without pleading are each unavailable. In the view of the members of Kentucky's highest court, the McCracken County Court had acted properly in overruling the motions to stop the indictment and to discharge the jury panel. Charles H. Houston of the National NAACP office argued Hale's case before the United States Supreme Court on March 29, 1938. The prominent black attorney was confident of winning because the case was similar to one from Oklahoma that had been decided 3 years earlier. Hale's Kentucky lawyers had done such a thorough job of investigating the exclusion of blacks from juries in McCracken County that Houston merely presented their data and added a few remarks concerning court decisions about Black people and the jury process. Almost 2 weeks later, the court announced its unanimous decision. In an extremely short 3-page opinion, the Supreme Court said, "We are of the opinion that the affidavits, which by the stipulation of the state were to be taken as proof and were uncontroverted, suffice to show a systematic and arbitrary exclusion of Negroes from the jury list solely because of their race or color, constituting a denial of the equal protection of the laws guaranteed petitioner by the 14th Amendment. The court ordered a new trial for Hale." In response to the Supreme Court's ruling, the Commonwealth attorney said that Blacks would serve on the jury at Hale's next trial. Exactly 1 year later, Hale pleaded guilty to murder and was given a life sentence by the jury that contained several Afro-Americans. The ruling by the Supreme Court led to Blacks serving on juries elsewhere in the state. By the end of 1939, Black people in Lexington and Louisville were being impaneled on grand and pettit juries. And by the mid-1940s, the names of Blacks were included within the pool of juries in most of the smaller counties in Kentucky. To hell with all the white people that's done did all this lynching, burning, roasting, killing, murdering. Just move ahead, right? Yeah, now they putting Black people on the juries, left and right, because they ain't got to do nothing about them motherfucking white folks that's been murdering and lynching Black people. See? So yeah, that must have been part of it. That must have been part of the deal. That must have been part of the deal. That must have been part of the deal to give white folks immunity for what they had done to Black America. Don't charge white folks for what they've done to Black America. A lot of these towns in Kentucky knew exactly who those lynch mobs were. They knew exactly who a lot of those lynch mobs were, those people. So while they were trying to make things better, how? When you letting stone cold savage murderers go free. Sitting right there together on the jury. In some of the towns, the same jury and judge, a decade later, they had turned over a Black man to the mob. 10 years later, here it is, a Black man and Black folks and white folks on the jury with the same judge. And the Black people can't say nothing but listen and comment about the trial that they there for, that they sitting on the jury for. So see, that shit wasn't sincere either. It ain't never been sincere and equal for Black America. Who got the short end of the stick on everything? It ain't being no victim. We just saying here, we won't be victimized no more. Although Black leaders proclaimed Hale versus Kentucky an important victory, the case did not ensure that Blacks would receive equal treatment in court. Just as it is extremely difficult to prove in every instance when a legal lynching occurred, it is likewise difficult to prove when and if race quit being a factor in the conviction of Black defendants. It's hard to say if race stopped being a factor in the conviction of Black defendants. Because, at first, race was the only factor when a crime was committed and a Black man was the accused. Race was the only factor, even if it was the wrong man, even if it was the wrong Black man, long as he was Black. But yeah, it's really hard to say if race stopped being the factor. Because, the system is so flimsy. It don't hold up for nothing but white supremacy. I would like to think that race wasn't a factor anymore and it was more of the evidence, witnesses, of said crime that was committed. But I don't think so. I don't think race ever quit being a factor. I would like to think it was, or maybe it is today, but I don't think so even today. Yeah. So, also, it must be remembered that the Supreme Court ruled that Blacks had to be included in the pool of potential jurors. See, they were just having it up there that Black folks could be on the jury, but they wasn't putting their names in the pool. Yeah, white folks just said that Black folks, were able to be on the jury, but they wasn't putting their names in the pools so that their names could be pulled. And they knew it. Damn. Where are we at anyway? Okay. Also, it must be remembered that the Supreme Court ruled that Blacks had to be included in the pool of potential jurors. The court did not rule that the absence of Blacks from a particular juror, even when a Black was the defendant, meant that discrimination had obviously occurred. Many Kentucky Blacks would still be convicted of murder or rape and sentenced to death by all white jurors. Of the 24 men put to death between 1940 and 1962, 15 were Afro-American. Since 1940, no white people have been executed for rape, while 5 Blacks have died in the electric chair for this offense. As far as can be determined, the 15 Blacks were sentenced to death by all white jurors, and no whites received death sentences for crimes against Blacks. Since the Hale case, a new pattern of discrimination had become part of the legal system in the state. When a Black is accused of petty crimes, Blacks can serve on the jury. When a Black commits rape or murder against a white woman, the jury will be all white. I didn't see that. Did you? And when a white is accused of crime, the jury will be all white. And this is especially true if the victim is Black. While there have been many While there may have been progress in challenging the convictions of Afro-Americans sentenced to death, it is difficult to determine how much headway was made in the legal lynching of Afro-Americans for lesser crimes. Often in a matter-of-fact manner, the white newspapers documented the large number of blacks who were doing time in city and county jails, or who were in jail awaiting the start of circuit court. Indeed, in white newspapers all over the state, blacks were mentioned most often when circuit court was in session. A story from Scottsville in July 1905 reported that Myrtle Sanders, a black woman, had been charged with robbery and several counts of arson. In all, 9 blacks had been arrested on a variety of charges. With circuit court ready to convene, the blacks would be given speedy trials to prevent further trouble. In Scottsville, the reporter predicted. In Madisonville, a black woman was convicted of malicious cutting with intent to kill and sentenced to 2 years in prison. This makes 5 Negroes that have received penitentiary sentences. And the first week of court has just finished. Willie Smith of Paducah was sent to prison for the murder of a black in 1927. His conviction, the local paper noted, makes the 3rd man to receive a penitentiary sentence since the court convened. All are Negroes. In Kentucky and elsewhere, some offenses were viewed as Negro crimes. Writing in 1910, Gilbert Stevenson pointed out how certain legal statutes, though not mentioning the Negro, are thought by many to have peculiar application to him. In his view, Kentucky had passed a law directed at blacks in 1904, particularly called the Chicken Thief Law. The ordinance read that if any person shall steal chickens, turkeys, ducks, or other fowls of the value of $2 or more, he shall be confined in the penitentiary not less than 1 nor more than 5 years. What? Considering that early in this century, defendants in most minor cases had no lawyers, and that blacks were usually tried in very hostile environments, the chicken thief law might have had an awful effect on them, especially in small isolated communities. In March 1930, the American Civil Liberties Union wrote to Walter White about a Paris black being sentenced to life in prison for stealing 6 chickens. The circuit court justified such a harsh sentence by saying that the black man was a habitual criminal. The National Office of the NAACP contacted William Scroggins, a black leader in Paris, and asked him to investigate the matter. His intervention proved beneficial. Within a week, the court set aside the verdict and ordered a new trial for the convicted black. He was then given 4 years in jail. Yep, 4 years in jail. Because they were finna put his ass they were finna kill him. Yep. They were finna put his ass to sleep. Life in prison for stealing 6 chickens. And the mob were going to come and lynch him for that. Yep. Burglary was another criminal offense that whites associated with Afro-Americans. A burglary conviction always carried the possibility of a stiff prison sentence. And this became even more likely after the Kentucky legislature passed a statute in 1922 that said, every person guilty of burglary shall be punished with death or confinement in the penitentiary for life. in the discretion of the jury. 2 years later, Alex Gibson, age 64, broke into the home of R.W. Thompson of Lexington. Upon being discovered in the house by Lucian Thompson, Gibson attempted to shoot him with a shotgun. But fortunately for Thompson, the weapon was not loaded. In a struggle with Gibson, Thompson sustained several severe knife wounds. He was hospitalized for 7 weeks. In court, the elderly black man confessed to entering the house, saying that he was hungry and wanted some food. He denied trying to shoot Thompson and claimed he had cut the white man in self-defense. The jury deliberated only an hour before handing down the death sentence. They gave Gibson the maximum sentence after learning that he had served 2 15-year sentences for burglary. Life in prison for stealing a chicken. Life in prison or death for breaking in the house to get something to eat. The Kentucky Court of Appeals concluded that a sentence of death was appropriate because burglars like Gibson were perhaps the most desperate men in society. Nothing would prevent the consummation of their design, not even the necessity of taking human life. Indeed, the fact that Thompson is alive today, we firmly believe, is due to the fact that this gun was not loaded, or to the appellant's failure in his stabbing of Thompson to reach a vital spot. In the opinion of the justices, Kentucky's legislators had the right to make the conviction by the conviction of burglary punishable by death. In the opinion of the justices, Kentucky's legislators had the right to make the conviction of burglary punishable by death. Burglary punishable by death. For some food? Because it was a black man. Shortly after the ruling by the state's highest court, members of the Lexington NAACP met with Governor William J. Fields, urging him to spare Gibson's life. Although appalled by Gibson's criminal career, the governor agreed to commute the sentence to life in prison. Believing that blacks were prone to criminal acts, white city fathers on occasion adopted measures that would have been totally unacceptable if they had been directed at white people. In the view of Henderson whites, blacks were responsible for a crime wave in 1915. Early in the year, a black teenager, identified on one occasion as James Blackwell, and on another occasion as Willie Blackburn, was arrested and charged with the theft of a gun and a suit of clothing. His crimes, which were not that uncommon, received coverage in the newspaper for several days. The paper also made much of the arrest of 2 black men who had been caught in bed with 2 white prostitutes. Ignoring the women, the court fined the black men $50 each, plus court costs, and gave them 1 hour to leave town. Meanwhile, another black had been arrested and held over to the circuit court for the attempted rape of a 7-year-old white girl. On the heels of the alleged criminal assault came the account of 2 young white girls being followed for 5 blocks by an unidentified black man. The Negro's acts indicated that he was only waiting for the young ladies to separate. The young woman met a white man who agreed to walk with them, and the black man quickly left the scene. The many lawless acts committed by Negroes during the past few weeks, the paper reported, have so enraged the whites and the better class of colored citizens that something is likely to happen at any time. For the police, the tipping point occurred when George Powell struck Mrs. Lindsay Branson, his landlady. Oh, shit. According to the authorities, Branson had asked Powell to pay his rent, and the black man responded by striking her repeatedly in the face. Branson received numerous bruises and a deep gash. Fearing that a mob might attempt to lynch the black man, the police had him moved to another city. Within a day of this latest episode, Police Chief Posey Bailey, P-O-S-E-Y, B-A-I-L-E-Y. Posey Bailey declared war on bad Negroes. I am determined to put a stop to the rowdyism and trouble from the belligerent portion of the Negro population of the city. Police officers working the streets received orders to arrest all intoxicated blacks. The police chief also instructed his men to break up crowds of boisterous and rowdy blacks. Too often, he said, groups of blacks pushed whites off sidewalks into gutters. In addition, to be bothered by these alleged criminal acts, whites also seem to have been troubled by blacks asserting themselves. In other words, though claiming that their efforts were directed at bad Negroes, whites were in reality saying that all blacks must be compelled to respect the rights of whites on the streets in Henderson. As the chief pointed out, a number of white people had complained to him that Negroes refused to even walk to the side of the pavement in order to give room to pass on the sidewalks. Chief Bailey promised them that things would soon return to normal. The Daily Journal fails to clearly spell out how the police brought the crime wave to an end. They probably resorted to random arrests of blacks and the running of some undesirables out of town. The actions of the police led to numerous unsubstantiated charges against Afro-Americans, which tended to fuel the belief that blacks were involved in criminal acts. About a month after the police chief declared his intention to crack down on black criminals, Roscoe Jewell, a young white man, was struck in the head, knocked unconscious, and robbed of $2 and his watch. Although he had been surprised and stunned by his unidentified assailant, Jewell instinctively knew that it was a Negro who struck me, though he is unable to give any description of the thief. The bias of the police in viewing blacks as criminals led to tragic consequences on at least one occasion. In Lexington on Tuesday, March the 31st, 1925, Gertrude Boulder, while walking toward her house, fell to the ground, suffering from a severe attack of indigestion. A police officer found Boulder and arrested her on a charge of public intoxication. Throwing the woman in a cell, the police ignored her screams for a physician. Boulder died early the next morning. Once word was released of how she died, the police at first stated emphatically that she was drunk, only to be disapproved by a medical examiner. The black community strongly expressed its disapproval and called for an investigation. Led by Mrs. Lizzie Fouse, F-O-U-S-E, a woman long active in various causes, dozens of churches and clubs expressed their shock that such a thing could happen to a civic-minded, church-going woman like Bolden. A petition sent to the mayor said, inasmuch as there were no signs of intoxication as certified to by the coroner, no disorderly conduct, no scars to indicate quarrel, coupled with the fact that she was neatly dressed, we feel that either our colored policewoman, probation officer, city physician, or trained nurse might have been called in to identify her, since so few of our best citizens are known by the white policemen. After the white newspapers joined the call for an investigation, the mayor and the police chief felt moved to respond. Their report acknowledged that Bolden was a woman of impeccable, impeachable character, interested in the well-being of the community. Every attention was paid to Bolden with the exception of calling a physician, they claimed. But because of the tragic circumstances of her death, in the future, it will be the duty of officers in charge of police station when anyone is brought into the station in an unconscious condition, that such person be immediately taken to one of the hospitals or a physician called at once to give medical attention to the case. Despite the promise of the mayor and the police chief that such an incident would not happen again, the death of Gertrude Bolden was a result of whites treating all blacks as criminals. And they still do that right today. Interestingly, in the many cases of legal lynchings that occurred in Lexington, made me think about Hardell Sherrill. Here in Minnesota. Right here in Minnesota, he was in jail. Beltrami jail. And Hardell had, I forgot the name of the disease, but it attacks your organs. And sometimes you okay. You can get up, move around, you can feed yourself, you can take a bath and stuff. But sometimes you couldn't move nothing. And that's what was wrong with Hardell. And they killed him. I got the papers in there. I'll pull them out sometime and we can read them and stuff. And his mother, she never gave up the fight for Hardell, her son. Yep, she sure didn't. We can't never give up. Interestingly, in the many cases of legal lynchings that occurred in Lexington, black leaders refused to speak out. Or if they did, it was to endorse the actions of the authority with scare asses. To be sure, the case of Gertrude Bolden was a blatant example of racial prejudice. But so too were the arrest, the prosecution, and the execution to many other blacks in the city. In 1905, after 3 black men had been charged with the murder of a white man in a saloon, and after other blacks had been accused of a number of unsolved crimes, Afro-American leaders formed the Good Citizens League to work with the police. Fearing that the misdeeds of a few might reflect negatively on the entire black community, they expressed a desire to assist the police in any manner. The leaders urged the mayor to enforce the law and close many dives and saloons that were ruining the youth. As one spokesman explained, there are more of our colored boys annually going to the penitentiary than attend our college. In 1913, after the shooting of the police chief by Joe Smith, the Southern Negro who wandered into Lexington and would put the state to the expense of caring for him for some time because of his criminal misconduct, leading black citizens thought it was necessary to condemn the act and remind whites that blacks also stood for law and order. that black leaders were unsympathetic to Smith pleased the editor of the local white newspaper, it was scarcely necessary for the colored citizens who constituted this mass meeting to take this means of assuring the community that the conduct of this man Smith met with their empathetic disapproval. It is well known that there is in Lexington a large body of colored citizens who are faithful to all of the rules of good citizenship, who condemn lawlessness in every form, and who contribute freely to the betterment of the more. They were so happy. They were so happy that black folks didn't stand up for white folks. I mean, black folks didn't stand up for black folks. Yeah. Then they knew they had them. They knew. Oh, shit. See, they knew. When black people didn't stand up for black people, they knew they was a coward. Yep. Black folks knew. We've always known. We ain't scared of nothing but white folks. Yep, I'll tell you that in a minute. White folks know it. Yep, they so proud of it too. Cause they know black folks ain't scared of nothing but white folks. Yep. Yep, white folks are so proud because they know that black folks ain't scared of nothing but white folks. Oh, it makes them so proud. It makes them so proud sometimes they forget that they terrified of black folks. Yeah. White America is. Oh, yeah. Let me go ahead and try to finish this book right here. Black leaders also expressed approval of the quick trial and the death sentence meted out to Will Lockett in February of 1920. Likewise, in 1926, after Ed Harris was convicted and sentenced to death, Lexington blacks applauded this action. Harris told a reporter, "The white people have been mighty good to me, but there hasn't been a single one of my own color to see me or written to me or anything. Consistently, blacks all over the state condemned the crimes attributed to members of their race, but rarely, at least in the newspapers, did they question whether the accused blacks had received fair trials before all white juries and courthouses packed with hostile whites. Black leaders, however, were quick to complain and did so consistently that the police and the courts were lenient towards white lawbreakers, especially when they were accused of committing crimes against blacks. Ain't that a bitch? Quick to complain. Considering the documented cases in which a white was actually charged with a crime against a black and found innocent by an all-white jury, how many other times did the authorities refuse to press charges against whites for violating the rights of Afro-Americans? One can only speculate what it must have been like for blacks in rural areas who knew that the protest to the authorities would probably result in additional problems for themselves instead of the possible prosecution of the accused whites. The early 1900s witnessed a number of blatant attacks by whites on blacks. Many of these brutal incidents occurred in the state's largest cities, not just in isolated hamlets. One such incident happened in Lexington on October 2nd, 1900, and involved Robert Charles O'Hara Benjamin, a man active in civic affairs in the black community. Throughout his life, Benjamin worked as a lawyer and a journalist. He edited newspapers in several southern cities, beginning in the 1880s, and authored a number of books, including Southern Outrages, a statistical record of lawless doings, which strongly denounced lynchings. Benjamin arrived in Lexington in the mid-1890s and became a partner with W.D. Johnson in the operation of the Standard. To the dismay of some whites, Benjamin quickly became involved in local politics. On the morning of October the 2nd, an argument broke out between Benjamin and Michael Monahan over the white man's continued harassment of blacks who wanted to register to vote. Monahan, obviously unaccustomed to being challenged by a black man, struck Benjamin several times with his revolver. Benjamin had Monahan arrested on assault charges. Within an hour of being taken into custody, Monahan posted bond and was released from jail. That evening, Monahan stationed himself in the alley near Benjamin's home, waiting to confront the black man again. When Benjamin approached the area, he saw Monahan and quickly realized that his life was threatened. He immediately turned and began running, but was brought down in a hail of gunfire as Monahan shot him 6 times in the back. Benjamin, a black man who had denounced lynchings and had called upon the South to live up to the American creed, died at the hands of violence. Upon the arrival of the police, Monahan simply stated, "I surrender." At his examining trial several days later, he pleaded not guilty by reason of self-defense. Monahan's lawyer told the court that Benjamin had been the aggressor, that one round had been fired from his gun. When the police had examined the deceased black man, they had found a gun in his pocket with one empty chamber. It was unclear when the gun had been fired, but since the weapon was still in Benjamin's pocket, not in his hand, it had certainly not been fired during the encounter with Monahan. Two hours after the hearing started, the judge dismissed the case on the grounds that Monahan had acted in self-defense. This led, of course, to the usual outcries of injustice from blacks, and to their surprise, from the white local newspaper as well. In a story headlined, "He shot Benjamin from behind in self-defense," the Morning Herald said that Monahan's testimony was unbelievable and that officials should have filed formal murder charges against him. The newspaper followed with an editorial saying that something had to be done to protect blacks from whites. In addition to the tragic murder of Benjamin, 2 other black men have been killed in Lexington by whites within the past week, under circumstances that have excited a not unnatural feeling of unrest among the Negroes, and a feeling also that they are not accorded full protection of the law. As far as can be determined, none of the whites accused in the shooting deaths of Afro-Americans stood trial. Another case that received considerable attention and comment as to whether or not the law vigorously prosecuted whites for killing blacks occurred in Louisville. On April 13, 1920, the son of William J. James was slightly injured by an automobile driven by Joseph Lowe. The personal chauffeur for the owner of Wolf Confectionery. Lowe promptly informed his employer of the incident, who in turn called James, telling him that he would pay any medical bills and damages. James was a former officer in the Spanish-American War and an expert with a revolver, and he had killed a black burglar in the 1890s. He was outraged over his son's injury. Armed with 2 automatic revolvers and a Bowie knife, James went to Wolf Confectionery, confronted the black chauffeur, and shot him dead, saying, "Well, my conscience is clear." Repeated protests from the black community eventually led the authorities to arrest James and charge him with murder. Just as the Lexington paper had called for the conviction of Benjamin's killer, the Courier-Journal expressed dismay over the possibility that James might not be fully prosecuted. In a lengthy editorial called "Erase the Color Line," the paper said, "Everyone with an elementary sense of justice would be glad that James was held without bond, was held without bail." The editorial added that everyone believing in fair play will commend the police judge for rebuking and fining the defense attorney for introducing the race question at the examining trial. The issue is one of guilt or innocence, not one of color. Should the trial be aborted by introduction of the color line? It would blacken the records of the court, disgust the community, and reflect upon the civilization often proclaimed proudly a white man's civilization. Oh, can we finish, y'all? We got just this much to go. Oh, my ancestors. The NAACP hired a prominent lawyer to help with the prosecution of James. Convinced that the sheriff and the deputies guarding James had become too friendly with him and allowed him special privileges, they demanded, though unsuccessfully, that new officers were assigned to the jail. James went on to trial almost 2 months after the death of Joseph Lowe. A large crowd of blacks were on hand to witness the trial of a white man charged with the murder of one of their race. James pleaded self-defense and asked for a continuance, which was granted until October the 21st. James' lawyers proved adept in delaying the trial even further, having it eventually postponed until December. But in a traumatic turn, the case came to a sudden end on November the 5th. Taking advantage of the lax attitude of the guards, James' wife smuggled a knife into his cell. James took the knife and plunged it into his heart, killing himself instantly. White Louisvillians would cite this case as an example of the law being colorblind. It must be remembered, however, that if justice was served, it was mainly because of the persistence of blacks in demanding that James be made to stand trial for killing Joseph Lowe. Just as race was a primary consideration for white jurors passing judgment on blacks accused of murdering whites, so it was a factor for white jurors deciding the fate of white defendants. At the end of the 1920s, Tom Crawford killed a black man for allegedly attacking Crawford's daughter. The Louisville police arrested Crawford only after learning that his daughter had not been assaulted and that the person Crawford killed was not the man who had been accused of the crime. Found guilty, he received 21 years in prison. Had Crawford been a Negro and the innocent victim white, he would have gotten nothing short of the electric chair, the Louisville leader said with an open contempt for the verdict. Crawford's successful escape from jail only compounded the miscarriage of justice. in the view of the black newspaper. Several months later, W.R. Morgan, a white veterinarian, stood trial in Lebanon for the murder of 2 blacks. One Sunday morning, Morgan had ventured into the black community to purchase some liquor. After sharing a drink with 2 black men, Morgan testified he was struck on the head with a plank as the men attempted to rob him. Pulling out his gun, Morgan shot one of his assailants and then pursued the second one into the house of a neighbor. Not taking any chances, Morgan wildly fired a number of shots inside the house, one of which struck and killed Cordelia Adams. In court, the state offered no evidence to dispute Morgan's claim of self-defense, even in the death of the black woman. The all-white jury deliberated less than 5 minutes before reaching its not guilty verdict. When it was read, there was a loud applause in the courtroom, which the judge was unable to stop for several minutes. The NAACP was upset about the manner of the trial and the makeup of the jury, which contained a number of friends of the doctor. On a few occasions, whites were charged with raping black females. As noted, no white man in Kentucky died on the gallows or in the electric chair for the rape of a black woman. Usually the charges, if not dismissed outright, were reduced in court to detaining a woman against her will. Afro-Americans lashed out at the hypocritical practice of sentencing blacks to death or to long prison terms while showing complete sympathy towards whites charged with the same crime. In Louisville, some whites were charged in court with raping black females. That more assault charges were filed in Louisville probably indicates an aggressiveness on the part of blacks that was lacking in smaller towns. In 1914, Mary Woodridge, age 16, claimed that she had been raped by a white census taker and that he had threatened to kill her if she told the police. A physician confirmed that the girl had been raped. Nothing seems to have come from her charges. This may have been because the census taker had prominent relatives. He had prominent relatives. They worked in the courthouse and the court system and stuff. And see, that's where he was working at. He was just doing a little side job, you know. The black press complained that unlike the widespread coverage given alleged attacks on white women by blacks, a peculiar feature of the case is that nothing concerning the affair, although it occurred on a Wednesday, had appeared in the daily papers. 6 years later, Edwin Harding was convicted of assault on a black woman only after the prosecutor agreed to reduce the charge to disorderly conduct. Instead of being sent to jail, Edwin Harding was fined $20. The leader voiced this complaint. Can you beat that for adhering to the principles of law and order? Imagine Harding being a colored man and Miss Carter a white woman, and ponder a minute to whether he would have promptly been sentenced and punished by the mob or turned over to the authorities to be sent to Frankfurt for 99 years and one dark day. A year later, Louis Hembaugh, a painter, was left alone in the house with 5-year-old Mary McElroy while her aunt went to a nearby grocery store. When the aunt returned, Hembaugh rushed out of the girl's bedroom, and his actions indicated that something had occurred. An examination by a white doctor revealed that the girl had been sexually violated. In court, despite the testimony of the girl and the physician, the grand jury dismissed Hembaugh. Once again, the leader expressed the outrage of blacks. It doesn't take a Philadelphia lawyer to tell what would have been the results had the 5-year-old girl been white and the brute black. Attacks on black women continued in Louisville. In the summer of 1925, two white men, disguised as police officers, stopped a black woman for no reason. One man watched while the other one allegedly raped her. After finally capturing the men, the police charged them with detaining a female, not with rape. The court sentenced W.O. Metcalf, whom the woman identified as the raper, to 2 years in prison, while the other man, Mike Miller, was given a year in prison. The sentences were much too mild, police court judge Eugene Daly said. The warrants for the two men should have been for rape. If detaining the female was the only charge, why did the jury give one of the defendants a longer sentence, he asked. In November 1926, Charles Falone, Falone, a man with a long record of brutal crimes, was charged with the rape and beating of a black woman. In April 1927, his first trial ended in a hung jury. A month later, Falone was found guilty of rape, fined $1,000, and sentenced to 5 years of hard labor. The black press proclaimed it was a fair decision. But had the criminal been black and the victim white, well, although Falone was a hardened criminal and was in prison for the crime, and was in prison for a crime for which blacks were usually executed, he was paroled. He was paroled on February 23, 1928, after serving less than a year of his sentence. A controversial case began in Lexington on Sunday evening, February 28, 1926, when Charles Merchant forced at gunpoint two sisters, Evelyn and Sarah Jones, into a commercial laundry. He tore the clothes off both girls and raped Evelyn, the younger one. Next, Merchant forced the new girls to walk outside with him, and they were seen by several blacks. Susie Brown approached them. Merchant threatened her, but she managed to escape. She successfully persuaded several black men to return with her in an attempt to apprehend Merchant and free the girls. When he saw them coming towards him, Merchant fled but was eventually overtaken by the group. The team of white and black doctors selected to examine the younger girl found evidence that she had been sexually assaulted. At the police station, both girls easily identified Merchant. The rape and assault on the Jones girls occurred while Lexingtonians were anxiously awaiting the execution of Ed Harris for the rape and murder of a white woman, and were hoping to avoid any racial outbursts. Fayette County's prosecuting attorney tried to calm the fears of blacks that Merchant would go unpunished. Justice would be served, he proclaimed. He would work just as hard for Merchant's conviction as he had for the death sentence for Harris. Upon learning that Merchant was a member of a prominent family and would have 4 attorneys, black leaders began raising money to help in the prosecution. The Reverend James W. Gibson, pastor of Main Street Baptist Church and a member of the NAACP, held a meeting at his church and raised $750. Several other groups held rallies and raised another $400. The Lexington NAACP wrote to the National Office for advice. James Weldon Johnson told them to call upon their white friends for justice for whites, just as they had for Harris and other blacks accused of crimes. Immediately after the examining trial in which Merchant was formally charged with the rape of Evelyn Jones and the detaining of her sister, the National Office issued a press release. In it, the NAACP pointed out that a white man had just been charged with rape and no troops had been needed to protect him from a lynching. Yet, whenever a black is charged with rape, a lynching becomes a real possibility. Merchant's trial started on Monday, April 5th. It took an entire day for both sides to agree on the 12 white men who would decide the case. After 2 days of testimony, the trial came to a sudden and dramatic end. Merchant was found insane and sentenced to a mental hospital. William Warley, editor of the Louisville's other black newspaper, The News, wrote an editorial entitled Color and Crime. Warley reminded his readers of the trial of Ed Harris in Lexington. The courthouse had been completely surrounded by armed guardsmen, and the entire trial had lasted less than 20 minutes. By contrast, Merchant was given a trial by a jury of his peers, and it took 3 days, not 17 minutes, to find him insane. Merchant thereby does not dangle from the end of a murderous rope, but is committed to an institution for the insane, and we have no doubt his sanity will soon be restored, and he will be permitted to go scot-free, while Ed Harris lies rotting under the bluegrass of Kentucky, and the two little violated girls of dusky hue can find no balm in Gilead for their defiled bodies. It would take a weird imagination to reconcile these two flagrant cases. To Kentucky and the South, however, a philosophy is ever present that can explain those matters with surprising simplicity. Harris was black and Merchant was white. It is not a matter of crime, but a matter of color. It is highly likely that Charles Merchant was insane. Were Will Lockett and Ed Harris mentally capable of standing trial? This question had not been raised at their trials. No motive was given for their crimes. In the eyes of whites, blacks like Lockett and Harris had no motive, but were merely depraved human beings. Furthermore, many whites of the early 1900s believed that most black people acted in ways that were far from normal anyway, so an insanity plea was an option not available to them. Black leaders, embarrassed by the crimes committed by Lockett and Harris, and hoping to show whites that not all blacks were rapists and murderers, wanted the trials resolved quickly and were not about to ask for anything that looked like leniency for either man with they old scary punk asses. Y'all motherfuckers sat there and watched all the lynchings of black men and black women. Then when all the smoke done cleared and they done put away they ropes and shit, all they ass could think about was the black leaders. Oh, we so embarrassed by black people killing, black people committing murder. The worst thing that's ever happened. How could they do this? And y'all ass feel some motherfucking fakes, some motherfucking cowards. Scared of the white man. Lockett clearly seems to have been deranged. Shortly before being put to death, he confessed to several other assaults and murders. Explaining that his real name was Petrie Kimbrough, he had fled the community of Pembroke in Christian County after an unsuccessful assault on a white woman in 1905. He killed a white woman in Illinois in either 1912 or 1913, a black woman in Indiana in 1917, and a woman whose color he could not determine while stationed in Louisville in the United States Army during the war. At the time of Lockett's death in 1920, editor William Warley wrote an editorial suggesting that the horrible acts committed by Lockett and his insanity were logical byproducts of living in America's racist society. Will Lockett was a product of his environment, born and reared in a state where lawlessness was rampant, where mobs intimidated judges and juries, where justice was a mockery. Having no rights himself that anyone was bound to respect, he soon reached that malevolent stage of human depravity, wherein he lost all regard for the rights of others. He began to feel malice against all mankind, against the white race, for thus brutalizing the Negro, and against the black race for his submission to brutality. So long as the Negro is treated as he has been treated, will there be Will Locketts. Ooh. Legal lynching was only a part of the racial violence experienced by Afro-Americans in Kentucky. Clearly, however, legal lynching, because it made a complete mockery of the law, intended to destroy the respect citizens have of their legal process. Legal lynching proved to be far worse than the horrible acts of the mobs that ran blacks out of town or lynched them. These acts were illegal and no clear-thinking citizens suggested otherwise. On the other hand, the overwhelming majority of white Kentuckians believed that their legal system was fair, that even though blacks were denied equal access to most places in society, they were dealt with fairly in court. Therefore, they simply ignored the omission of blacks from juries and the obvious discrimination they faced in court, whether they were there as the defendant or the victimized party. With such an attitude so firmly embedded in white society, blacks clearly and consistently faced discrimination before the law. The racial violence discussed in this study has ended for the most part. Steps taken by concerned government officials and by black and white civic leaders have proven over time to be sufficient to eradicate the acts of the mobs. Even though they still lack total equality before the law, black Kentuckians are no longer tried in courthouses where white mobs are clamoring for the death penalty, and heavily armed soldiers surround the building, closely checking each person entering the courtroom. Their trials last much longer than an hour, and jurors take longer than 5 minutes to render verdicts. The mental state of the accused is also considered. All of this can be viewed as progress. We as a nation no longer allow people to be lynched inside or outside the courtroom. We as Americans tend to applaud ourselves for doing the right thing, for extending to the accused person the right to defend himself and to challenge fully his accusers in court. Many people do not want to be reminded of a time when racial violence was rampant. They think this is too negative and dwells on only the worst aspects of society. Regardless, it is extremely important to remember that Kentuckians and Americans consistently went to great extremes to deny blacks their most fundamental rights. Centuries of judicial prejudice and mob violence are not erased quickly. Within our society, the dangers still remain, dormant perhaps, but present nevertheless. If we understand the past evils and are reminded of them, perhaps such evils will stay as they should be, behind in the past. We did it! Look! We got to the end of our second textbook. Our second text. Thank you so much, everyone. Maybe tomorrow we'll look at a little bit of this right here. Maybe, maybe not. Good night. Good night, and peace and power to the people.